Ever feel like your emotions are just calling all the shots
Mm.
and you're kind of stuck along for the ride? Like you're strapped into this crazy emotional roller coaster
Yeah.
going up and down loops you didn't even sign up for.
You don't get to pick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So today we are diving deep into taking back control of that roller coaster.
Love it.
We're talking all about emotional regulation.
Okay.
And no worries. This
Uh-huh.
isn't about like becoming some robot who doesn't feel anything.
Right.
It's about understanding
Sure.
why we experience those emotional highs and lows,
Totally.
and then how we can manage them so they don't just totally hijack our lives.
Yeah. So we have choices, right? They're not just happening to us.
Exactly. We have choices.
Yeah.
We've got a ton of cool research to get into today,
Awesome.
covering everything from the science behind our emotions to like actual techniques you can use in your everyday life right away.
Yeah. What's so interesting is that research shows that managing our emotions is actually crazy powerful.
Okay.
Like there was this 2019 study in this journal called Revista de Psicología Cognitiva,
Okay.
and they found that people who are good at this, at emotional regulation, they tend to have way better relationships.
Interesting.
Less stress.
Okay.
It's like unlocking a happier and healthier life.
Less stress, better relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, sign me up. I'm already there.
For sure.
But I do think a lot of us, we can relate to feeling blindsided by our own emotions.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they build up without us realizing, and then bam,
Totally.
suddenly we're like reacting in ways that we don't even understand.
You're totally right. And the research is really interesting here.
Okay.
It says we often don't even know what we're feeling until it's already too late.
Oh, wow.
Like it's this pressure cooker. Emotions just build and build. And then if
Yeah.
we don't pay attention, they just kind of explode.
So how do we release that pressure before it gets to that boiling point?
Right. So one thing that's surprisingly simple is to just like hit the pause button throughout your day and just ask yourself, what am I feeling right now?
Really? So you're saying there's power in just naming the feeling?
Yeah, because it creates a little space between you and that emotion. So instead of just being totally swept away by this wave of I'm overwhelmed,
Right.
it's more like, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. What can I do about it?
Okay.
That awareness is like the first step to feeling more in control.
So it's like we're hitting the pause button on a movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't make the feeling vanish,
Yeah,
but it lets us choose how we want to respond.
exactly. And that choice is huge,
Yeah.
you know? And one technique that really builds on that idea of pausing is called the pause technique.
A pause technique.
Yeah.
Tell me more. So there's this 2015 study from UC
Okay.
found that when people used this technique, they felt way more in control
Okay.
and they had less conflict in their lives.
Wow. And what's the science behind it? Like, does pausing really change our brains? It does.
Wow.
So it gives your prefrontal cortex, which is like the thinking part of your brain, a chance to catch up with your emotions. So instead of just like immediately firing off that angry email or whatever, you can pause and then choose a better way to respond.
So we're giving our brains a minute to catch their breath and be like, okay, wait,
Exactly.
what's going on here?
Yeah.
How do we actually want to deal with this?
Right. And sometimes that means shifting our focus, right?
Yes.
Which brings us to another technique,
Okay.
redirection.
Redirection.
Yeah.
I love this one. And I think it's so relevant, for all of us, especially our listeners who are constantly bombarded with information and stimulation.
Oh, yeah. It's like channeling that nervous energy into something better.
Okay.
And there's even a study on this. A 2012 Stanford study showed that just briefly shifting your focus can really reduce negative emotions.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed, instead of letting those feelings take over, you could take a walk, listen to music, do a breathing exercise.
Totally.
Anything to kind of hit the reset button.
Yeah.
What are some things you do to redirect when you're feeling those negative emotions bubble up?
Even just stepping outside for a few minutes
Yeah.
to look at nature can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
I think the takeaway is it doesn't have to be this big time commitment.
Right.
Even just a few minutes can really help.
It's like we're kind of tricking our brains into a better mood.
Exactly.
Right.
And speaking of how our minds work, let's talk about that conversation that's always happening in our heads. That inner voice
Oh, yeah.
that can be our biggest cheerleader or our worst critic,
Oh, I know that voice way too well.
right?
And it's crazy how much power those thoughts have over our emotions.
It's true. The way we talk to ourselves has a huge impact on how we feel.
Okay.
Like those negative thoughts,
Yeah.
I'm not good enough, this always happens to me. those can really fuel intense emotions.
It's true. It's like we're always second-guessing and criticizing ourselves,
Right.
which just adds to that pressure cooker.
Exactly. And we don't even realize we're doing it half the time. That's why it's so important to pay attention to that inner voice.
Yeah.
But the good news is we can actually choose to change the script.
So how do we do that?
It's all about challenging those negative thoughts
Okay.
and reframing them in a more balanced and realistic way.
Mm.
So, for example, instead of thinking, I always mess things up,
Yeah.
you could try saying, okay, I made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. What can I learn from this?
It's like talking to a friend who's being too hard on themselves.
Exactly.
You wouldn't let them get away with that, so why do we do it to ourselves?
Right. It's about being kinder to ourselves.
Yeah.
And there's actually research on this. A 2017 Harvard study
Okay.
found that practicing positive self-talk can make us more resilient to stress
Really?
and help us make better decisions.
Wow. So it's not just about feeling better. It's about equipping ourselves
Yes.
to actually handle whatever life throws at us.
Exactly.
Now, there's one more thing I want to unpack because it seems a little counterintuitive.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. You ready for this?
Hit me with it.
Controlling our emotions
Yeah.
isn't about pretending we don't have them.
Oh,
It's about accepting them.
interesting.
Yeah. So you're talking about radical acceptance.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us, we have this instinct to fight those negative emotions.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
To try to make them go away.
Of course, like shove them down.
Yeah. But you're saying that's actually counterproductive.
Yeah, what we resist persists.
Oh, wow.
When we try to fight our emotions, we actually give them more power over us.
So this 2014 study in the Journal of Emotional Therapy found that people who practiced emotional acceptance actually experienced less stress and anxiety.
Which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
When you think about
It
it.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it's about acknowledging those feelings without judgment.
Right.
Even the messy ones.
Yeah.
Even the ones that make us uncomfortable.
The icky ones.
The icky ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just waves, they come and they go.
So we're not pretending we're not feeling something.
Right.
We're changing our relationship to it.
Exactly.
It's not the enemy. It's just something that's happening.
And it will pass.
And it will pass. It will pass. It's not the enemy. It's just something that's happening.
And it will pass.
And it will pass.
It's a powerful shift
Yeah.
to look at it that way. And it definitely takes practice,
Okay.
you know?
So how do we actually practice that?
Well, think of it like learning to surf.
Okay.
You wouldn't just hop on a board for the first time and immediately be riding waves perfectly.
Why?
You're going to wipe out a few times.
Yeah.
But each time you get back up, you learn something new.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So speaking of learning, let's do a quick recap of those techniques we've talked about today.
Okay, sounds good.
We talked about pausing to create space between our emotions and how we react.
Create that space.
Yes.
Yeah, it's key.
We talked about redirecting our focus,
Yeah.
like choosing where we put our energy.
Love it.
And we talked about challenging that negative self-talk,
Oh, yeah.
rewriting those not-so-helpful scripts.
Totally. And then that last one.
Yes.
Radical acceptance.
Yes, accepting rather than fighting those emotions,
Cheers.
because that can actually be the most powerful path to peace.
Yeah. And just remember, it's not about being perfect at any of this.
Totally.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
Every little step you take in the right direction is a win.
It all adds up.
Exactly.
Every little step adds up.
Exactly.
It's about that journey, right?
Totally.
So it's not about beating ourselves up if we don't get it perfect.
Absolutely not.
It's about celebrating those small wins.
Yes. And this deep dive has been such a good reminder
Yes.
that we aren't just stuck with whatever we're feeling.
We have options.
We have way more power than we think. And if we can just start using even one of these techniques,
Right.
imagine the positive impact that could have on our lives.
Totally. So to wrap things up today,
Okay.
I want to leave you with something to think about.
I love it.
What's one small step you can take today to put one of these techniques into practice?
Ooh, I like that.
Like it could be as simple as taking a 5-minute walk when you're stressed,
yes.
or challenging that negative voice in your head
Love it.
with a more empowering thought.
Yeah.
Just remember, every journey starts with that first step.
So true.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep exploring the power of your own mind.